the Euro 500 SL, an in-depth overview. The 500 SL R107 is one of the most sought after and amazing Mercedes ever produced. And one of our Patreon supporters had requested a video on this car. So I have duly obliged and am going to deliver. So the 500 SL was introduced in 1980, and the engine that was used, the M117.96 or 961, or I think that's it. I might be wrong, but was introduced in the 450 SLC 5.0. But Mercedes had decided early on that all of the 500 SLs would use the upcoming 722.3 automatic. So the bell housing of this engine was modified and redesigned to accept the 722.3 instead of the 722.1 transmission. And as a result, Mercedes now had a faster car in their hands because they blessed the 500 SL with a 2.25 to 1 axle ratio. The 500 SLC also got these upgrades as well. Early 500 SLs, particularly 80 through 82 versions, are hot. They use few emissions restrictions, they have dirty exhausts, and they have really great fuel delivery. Oftentimes they were detuned for, you know, to make the emissions cut. But these vehicles were extremely potent, and they were really badass sports cars. And this engine also made it into the 500 SEC and 500 SE and SEL. So all these cars are pretty fast. In 1983, you saw the switch to, actually it might have been 82, part way through 82, you saw the switch to an idle control valve. The manual idle adjustment went away. The fuel distributor and warm-up regulator stayed the same to some extent, but the car was actually even de-emissioned a little bit for the European market. Still, the cars are pretty savage and brutal and fast, and I really like those cars a lot. 500 SL was never imported to the United States because it was well, Mercedes just didn't want to neuter the car and ruin it. You know, we had the 380 SL. We already had one SL that was heavily modified to meet U.S. emissions, you know, Y2. But somehow Mercedes did end up modifying the M117 engine with 8-to-1 compression and milder camshafts for the U.S. market, and they detuned it to 180 horsepower. Mercedes wanted the 500 SL to maintain its exclusivity, so most of them were sold in Germany or the surrounding areas, and a lot of them were brought in via the U.S. grain market. So these cars in 1986 were modified again with the later distributor from the 560 and 420. They received KE Jetronic fuel injection. They received the modified front subframe, and some cars had the option of 10-to-1 compression, effectively raising the horsepower to 272. Now these 86 and later 500 SLs are the most sought after. These are the cars that bring $100,000 at auction when they show up with 10,000 miles on them. These are the cars that the dealers fight to get their hands on, even if they're not in great condition. So if you own an 86 500 SL, you have a really valuable car. In the United States, there are a few 86s floating around, but in 87, when Ronald Reagan decided that he was going to deliberately devalue the dollar, the gray market stream pretty much dried up because nobody could go in and basically use their mortgage payments for the next 3 months to buy a 500 SEL, you know, nobody could walk into a Mercedes dealership in Europe, give them a fake address, and say, "Hey, I want that car on your showroom floor," and then just ship it to the United States under the one-time EPA exemption. So The 560 SL did ease some of the pain, but the 500 SL remains rare, elusive, brutally fast. I mean, you know, not like E63 fast, but will outrun new Lexus at high speeds fast. No joke. They'll do it. A really good 500 SL will set you back more than a 560 SL, even an early one. These cars do have a propensity to rust because they were originally introduced in climates where there were harsh winter conditions. And so as a result, if you are looking at an early 500 SL, particularly a car that spent a few years in Europe before coming here, you should probably vet the car carefully for poorly repaired bodywork or rust underneath. The 500 SLs have some of the same issues as other Mercedes from the era: timing chains, convertible tops needing replacement. But there's another dimension of this too. You really have to watch out for poorly implemented emissions controls and exhaust modifications. So this is the number one thing you have to watch out for. The second thing you have to be careful of course, is if you live in a state where there are emissions requirements, you need to get that stuff handled by a professional shop that knows what they are doing in regards to setting up the car for emissions. So I always say, if you find a really nice 500 SL, the most important detail isn't the price, it's more the condition of the car. So if you find a really great car, you're just going to have to pay up for it. Bad ones start at 10 grand. Really good ones sell for like 25 to 35. Low mileage unicorns sell for upwards of 60. Low mileage 86 unicorns sell for upwards of 80 or 85. So anyway, please like, share, and subscribe. Let me know in the comments below if you've driven or own a 500 SL and what you think of them. And thank you to all of our Patreon supporters. And in the meantime, tap the bell for notifications and leave us a thumbs up to let us know that you liked our videos. Enjoy driving your classic Mercedes, and we'll see you next time.